During the premiere of a new comedy show starring Tom and Dick Smothers, a tape was sent to CBS for review, and the reaction inside the network was immediate panic. Everyone expected a normal comedy routine, but instead the tape contained a sharp, fearless political message unlike anything CBS had ever allowed on television. Just 6 days later, without any warning, explanation, or final episode, the Smothers Brothers Comedy Hour was suddenly cancelled, and the controversial episode never aired. To understand why the tape caused such fear, it helps to look back at television in the 1960s, a time when NBC, ABC, and CBS controlled nearly everything the public saw. TV shows avoided sensitive topics and stayed safely within traditional views. CBS, known for being the safest network, filled its schedule with family-friendly programs like The Ed Sullivan Show and Bonanza. But the country was changing fast. The Vietnam War, civil rights struggles, and rising anti-establishment attitudes created a generation that demanded honesty and questioned authority. CBS needed a show that appealed to younger viewers, and at first, the Smothers Brothers seemed like a perfect fit. Tom and Dick Smothers were known for gentle comedy and music, and their show began in February 1967 with harmless jokes and light entertainment. But Tom Smothers soon had bigger plans. Using humor as a shield, he slowly turned the show into a platform for social and political commentary. He invited outspoken guests like Pete Seeger, Joan Baez, Jefferson Airplane, and The Who, artists who openly discussed war, freedom, and civil rights. The writers' room grew to include young talents like Steve Martin, who helped give the show a sharper voice. The comedy became smarter and more daring, and suddenly young people all over the country were tuning in, quoting lines, and talking about the deeper ideas behind the jokes. This success came with backlash. Conservative viewers and Southern TV stations complained loudly, accusing the show of promoting rebellion and disrespect. CBS, caught between ratings and controversy, began demanding that each episode be submitted 10 days in advance. Tom ignored the rule repeatedly, handing in episodes just hours before air so censors couldn't cut anything. Behind the scenes, executives grew more frustrated while Tom pushed harder and Dick tried to keep peace between both sides. As the show progressed into its second season, it became even bolder. Guests performed songs about war, protest, and defiance. The Who smashed their equipment on stage. Joan Baez sang about her husband, who was in prison for refusing the draft. Pat Paulson ran a satirical presidential campaign, mocking real political promises. But the most controversial figure on the show was comedian David Steinberg, who delivered mock religious sermons that mixed Bible stories with modern politics. In one of these pieces, he spoke about Moses as if he were a young person resisting the Vietnam draft. Conservative viewers were furious, and several CBS affiliates refused to air the sermon. CBS received hundreds of complaints, but at the same time students on college campuses secretly passed around recordings of Steinberg's performances because they felt he spoke for them. For many young Americans, the Smothers Brothers Comedy Hour became the only show that reflected their struggles and frustrations. CBS tried to regain control by demanding script approvals and removing risky material, but Tom continued to push back. By early 1969, the network saw the show as a growing problem. Some local stations threatened to drop it completely, and advertisers worried about the controversy. When Tom invited Steinberg to return for another sermon, CBS knew it might be the breaking point. In April 1969, Tom submitted an episode featuring Steinberg delivering a new, even more provocative sermon. Standing on a set made to look like a synagogue, Steinberg told the story of Moses as if Moses were an anti-war protester. He described Moses not simply as a follower of God, but as someone refusing to obey a ruler he believed was wrong, just like young men refusing to fight in Vietnam. Then he looked straight into the camera and said, "Sorry, Mr. President, but take your army and go. I will not help you anymore." CBS executives were stunned. Within days, they cancelled the entire show. The episode was never seen on television, but the impact of that moment changed the future of American TV by proving that comedy could challenge power and that one bold message could shake an entire network. The audience exploded with applause, but the CBS executives were shocked and disturbed. To them, what they had just seen was a direct insult to President Nixon. The sketch ended with a folk group singing about rejecting empty political promises, encouraging viewers to think for themselves instead of blindly trusting leaders. As David Steinberg threw his prayer shawl into the crowd and shouted, "Peace, not war," CBS censors immediately shut the segment down. The network later claimed that the episode had missed its required submission deadline, but Tom Smothers insisted it was delivered exactly on time. CBS demanded that Steinberg's sermon be cut from the show, and Tom firmly refused. On April 4, 1969, CBS suddenly cancelled the Smothers Brothers Comedy Hour. There was no press release, no final goodbye episode, and no explanation, just silence. The next Sunday, their time slot was quietly handed over to Hee Haw, a safe and non-political country variety show. The band Smothers Brothers episode never aired in the United States, but it was broadcast in Canada. Soon, bootleg copies began spreading across American college campuses, sparking heated discussions. University newspapers wrote passionate essays praising the unaired episode as a powerful final message from a show that had been silenced. Over time, the Smothers Brothers Comedy Hour became a symbol of free speech, artistic resistance, and the long struggle between creators and the powerful institutions that try to control them. Young audiences were inspired by the show's bravery, while older viewers were divided. Many believed that the sudden cancellation proved CBS cared more about pleasing political leaders than protecting freedom of expression. Small protests took place outside CBS offices in several cities, while conservative viewers defended the network's actions, insisting the show had gone too far and threatened public morality. For Tom and Dick Smothers, the cancellation was heartbreaking. Their television careers fell apart almost instantly. Tom was labeled a troublemaker, someone too dangerous to hire, and even Dick, who had been more cautious, found himself blacklisted simply for being associated with his brother. Still, they did not give up. They sued CBS for breaking their contract, arguing that the cancellation had nothing to do with deadlines and everything to do with silencing their political opinions. After 4 long years, in 1973, the court ruled in their favor and ordered CBS to pay more than $770,000. But by then, the damage to their careers had already been done. The stressful battle also affected their relationship. Dick later admitted he often disagreed with Tom's refusal to compromise and believed that if Tom had been willing to soften his stance just a little, the show could have lasted longer and reached even more people. Despite this, the brothers remained close. They continued performing in smaller venues for fans who had supported them from the beginning. In the entertainment world, the cancellation sent a clear warning. Many young writers and producers saw it as a lesson about how limited their creative freedom truly was on network television. Lorne Michaels, the creator of Saturday Night Live, later said that the Smothers Brothers proved political satire could exist on primetime TV, even if only briefly. Tom and Dick became heroes to a new generation of comedians who admired the risks they took. Over the years, old sketches and censored material resurfaced from private collections, adding to the show's legendary status as a comedy program punished for speaking too boldly. Public opinion about the show softened with time. What once seemed dangerous or inappropriate came to be seen as brave and ahead of its time. In 2008, nearly 40 years after the cancellation, Tom Smothers received an honorary Emmy Award. In his short acceptance speech, he said, "Peace is harder than war," a statement that deeply moved the audience. In 2010, Tom and Dick were inducted into the Television Academy Hall of Fame, finally receiving the recognition they had been denied for so long. It was also revealed that the Smothers Brothers had been placed on President Nixon's enemies list in the early 1970s, a secret document naming people considered politically dangerous. They did not face the same consequences as politicians or journalists on the list, but their inclusion showed just how strongly their comedy had unsettled those in power. In 2022, the entire archive of the show, tapes, scripts, notes, and unaired material, was donated to UC Santa Barbara for preservation. Researchers finally gained access to internal documents, including some CBS had once ordered destroyed. These archives helped reshape the show's legacy, allowing a new generation to understand what really happened behind the scenes. When Tom Smothers passed away in late 2023, tributes flooded social media.